2 weeks into Operation Epic Fury, the administration says Iran's military is being dismantled. But as Iranian attacks continue to disrupt global energy, the biggest escalation may still be ahead. Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Brian Bremberg, along with my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Dagan McDowell, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for the hour, Forbes media chairman and editor-in-chief Steve Forbes. Good to see you, sir.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Well, President Trump says American forces are destroying Iran's military capabilities, but the Iranians have yet to give up their hold on the Strait of Hormuz.
Iran still has the capability to harm friendly forces and commercial shipping, and our work on this effort continues. But I want to make something clear. The only thing preventing commercial traffic and flow through the straits right now, which there is some through the straits, is Iran.
The White House says the drill, baby, drill agenda is cushioning the economic impact for Americans. According to the Department of Energy, U.S. crude output reached a record 13.6 million barrels per day last year, with total oil and liquid fuel production around 24 million barrels. So, Steve Forbes, I'm coming to you first on this. I'm hearing chatter, okay, in the media that, gosh, did the United States really have a plan for the Strait of Hormuz when they went in against Iran? Did they have any idea at all that they would face this? I think they did, but I'm curious what your read is on how things are developing here.
Well, war always has surprises, sometimes good and sometimes very unpleasant. I don't think they foresaw the intensity of what Iran was capable of doing in the Strait, and that underscores something very important. Iran had imperial ambitions to conquer the Middle East. Why would they have all that weaponry? Missiles, drones by the thousands, selling them to the Russians and storing them themselves. So I think we're kind of surprised by the amount of hardware, you might say, they had. That underscores, though, a very important point. If we didn't take that stuff out now, not just the material itself, but the means to make those drones and those missiles, the world would be a much more unsafe place. So we have to see this thing through. In the middle of a fight, you always get people saying, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Key thing is it going to be successful at the end of the day? Because it's not just the Middle East. Vladimir Putin is looking at this, and even more importantly, Xi Jinping is looking at this, with the president coming in next month, because he's going to start to put pressure where you give up Taiwan. So if we do it right with Iran, the president will have a much better hand to play when he meets with Xi Jinping, and then finally trying to get an agreement with Ukraine without giving up Ukrainian independence. And in both cases, Iran, or all cases, they know they can't win militarily, but they hope they can win politically.
I see. Okay, so Taylor, do you think we're spending too much time worrying about where oil prices are right now and not enough about where they could be if we have a successful mission in Iran? Peter Navarro out with a piece arguing there's always been an Iran risk premium in the market. And if you deal with Iran, not only could you go maybe back to oil prices we saw before when this started, but perhaps even lower. Are we talking enough about that?
Well, okay, so you make up a good point about sort of that risk premium, and if you take them off the map, what were they saying? It'd be actually closer in like the mid-50s, I believe it was, sort of long term. That's great and admirable long term. I think my worry today, and maybe I'll be a little bit more of a pessimist as we start off our show, was we just came off the period where Americans felt like maybe they thought they could get ahead this year. We'd forecast really good GDP growth this year. We even heard from Jason Trenner yesterday that all of the big benefits from that big, beautiful bill now look like maybe they could be offset by some of the headwinds of oil prices. So yes, in the long term, I love taking out the Iranian risk premium from the market, but I think that's, still very hard for the average American at home who's going to the gas tank. That's the first thing you do on your way to work in the morning, to kind of get your head around that. That doesn't take away the feelings from some of the ickiness that people feel right now. Quickly, Brian, let's talk about GDP growth that was basically cut in half for the preliminary estimates. A lot of people are now looking at just 2% GDP growth this year. That's like on trend. I wanted 3, 4, 5% GDP
you don't like
growth.
Trends, huh?
With personal income and spending, accounting for inflation, Real consumption just rose about a modest 0.1%. And finally, the interesting thing about the University of Michigan survey, Brian, is half of it was taken before the war, and then the other half was taken after February 28th. And obviously, the signs were very different. I think coming into February 28th, half the respondents said that things are really starting to pick up and look good. And then all of the survey participants the other half taken after February 28th, had started to notice a lot more anxiety and deterioration, particularly around their ideas of inflation. So with energy prices, tighter financial conditions with rising bond yields, private sector uncertainty. Now, the JOLTS numbers look good, but that's, something else. My worry is sort of taking out the big positive tailwinds that we had talked about.
Dagan, is your glass more half full or half empty today, and how things are going in Iran, and particularly as it relates to the Strait and all of the energy conversation we're having?
I'm eating donuts out of anxiety and not drinking any liquids.
Oh, no.
So that would be half empty.
I have
Donuts
no glass
good,
in front of me. Exactly. But to Taylor's point, we have slow growth and inflation that is still a concern from the numbers we got on the economy. They are backward looking. They're from late last year and from January. Nevertheless, that's the backdrop of where we are. And you can't argue that the administration didn't plan for the Strait of Hormuz. But what they are doing raises questions. And I mentioned this the other day. If you go back to the beginning of the Iraq War, ever since the U.S. invasion of Iraq, the presence there, the inflation-adjusted price of oil has been elevated compared to a longer period. And so this potentially, even if it is resolved, it elevates crude prices. So that's the price of everything, even more than anticipated. Right now, in order to make sure that the world is properly supplied with oil, because 15 to 20 million barrels a day aren't passing as easily through the Strait of Hormuz. As I've pointed out, there is oil going through the pipeline in Saudi Arabia, through the pipeline in the United Arab Emirates. At Carr Island off Iran, the tankers are still being loaded. But the Treasury Department is allowing 124 million barrels of Russian oil that's already on the water to essentially unload. So those sanctions have been waived for a period of 30 days. There are other things that are going to happen, but a 30-day waiver, countries can snap up these sanctioned Russian barrels of oil. That, the higher price and the ability and ease to sell that oil, that feeds the Putin beast. It just does. Russia also makes the very drones that Iran used to make. And I just raised the issue, is the threat of Iran going to be fully eradicated? That the Strait of Hormuz is no longer a hot spot in the decades ahead, because that will add a premium to the price of crude oil in perpetuity. We could pump a lot more oil here, but are we? Because I just raised that issue, because we're not seeing signs of it.
If Iran's not eradicated, you're saying that risk premium in the Strait stays on and the Navarro thesis goes away. Jackie, what do you think about that? And I'll throw one other thing into the mix here. I've heard some talk about suspending the Jones Act for a period of like 30 days. So allowing non-U.S. ships to take crude oil from the Gulf of America and bring it up to the Northeast, say. And if you do that, maybe you get a little break in gas prices as well. So one more thing in the mix. Your thoughts on that?
I think the administration is doing everything in its power and everything that it can to manage the situation. The bell has been rung here. We are in this. You're not getting out, the president has said, until the job is finished. So I think that's important. And I still say duration is the key to crude oil prices. Steve Moore had a great piece that I love, and he talks about American outlets producing more oil and gas than we ever have. We put those stats up for you. He talks about the Green New Deal, all the money that we spent on it, and the fact that these green technologies and sources of energy are still just fringe at best. We got nowhere with that. The Middle East hasn't been a source of energy for us, he says, which is true because we've been doing so much more with our energy policy, but it still impacts global players. So that's why the prices are moving around the way that they are. We are a net exporter of oil and natural gas, he points out, and we're leading the world again under President Trump. Joe Biden tried to stop that. So when you look at all of this, and you look at inflation, which is still a worry, but nothing like it was in the Biden era, we want to see oil prices go down. The administration is forecasting that we'll get to, when this is over, if it's fully seen through, a $40 to $60 range. And that truly is really a sweet spot for everybody, the producers, but also the consumers here at home. And he ends his piece by saying, and the great 2026 economic boom will be right around the corner. So I think that will happen. I still urge people to have patience. Again, we've gotten into this. You can't get out halfway, to your point, Dagan. It's got to be done. It's got to be finished. I'd like to see it end in regime change, although I know that that's not the administration's goal per se. It's to eradicate the threat of the regime and its forces. And I've said this week that I'm worried about who's going to come in and who's going to take over and how this all plays out. But I think if we just keep hard on the military track and defang them completely, the people will take care of the rest.
I want to point out and the Wall Street Journal editorial board mentioned this as well. So because of it, our energy industry is power and prosperity. It's power on the world stage. It's power literally and figuratively here at home. It dictates everything about inflation and the cost of goods and services. And the more we produce, the more financially and economically independent we are, and the more sway we have in geopolitics. And we are a net of total. We're a net exporter, not of oil, but combined.
All products.
All products together. But just a few years ago, and it was because of the Republicans and Paul Ryan that we can export crude. There was a ban on it. And Ed Markey, Massachusetts liberal, Ron Wyden, they wanted to stop exporting. They wanted to block crude exports just a few years ago. This is going back 5 years ago that Ed Markey wanted to do this. So did Jenny Granholm, who was the energy secretary, who probably didn't know how to put gasoline in her own vehicle. So everything that comes out of the mouths of blue state Democrats is just garbage. But if the Jones Act from 1920 gets waived, it really only benefits the bluest of blue states. California, the Pacific Northwest, and the very Northeast, because those states are not fed by pipelines. For example, California has to buy right now gasoline that is refined in California, in Texas, from the Bahamas, because they have to buy it from the Bahamas because it's on a foreign flag ship, on a foreign flag tanker. That's how stupid our laws are.
Yeah, well, the Jones Act should have been repealed long ago. It was designed to help the American shipbuilding industry. It's destroyed it. It costs 4 to 5 times as much to build a ship in the U.S. as it does in South Korea or Japan. Absolutely ridiculous. The other thing, though, this underscores is the president has to do more than an 8-minute introduction to the war that he did a couple of weeks ago. I wish he would just sit behind a desk, not a podium where he stands up and almost like he's at a rally, but calmly behind a desk in the Oval Office and calmly explain what is at stake, why we have to see this thing through. When you set the narrative, when you set expectations, then people have a frame of reference when they get the pieces of news. But right now, everything is a shock. This is a shock. That's a shock. They weren't prepared for it. And so I wish he would do that, and I think that way he buys time. I'm old enough to remember during the Vietnam War when Richard Nixon, at a time of intense hostility to the war, did an address to the nation behind the in the Oval Office, behind a desk,
Okay.
and won public support for his plan. Buy time, explain it, set the frame of reference.
Okay. The frame of reference. Okay, Taylor, we're going to switch frames and talk a little bit about Meta. What's going on?
Ooh, avocado or avocado? How do you pronounce it?
I mean, avocado, I don't know.
I know. See, Stu said avocado, but I say
He said
avocado.
avocado. It's not the food you're talking about, though.
Yeah, but
It's
Stuart was not raised on this continent.
also
My
true.
point exactly.
Just true.
Avocado. Meta delays the rollout of their AI model that they are calling Avocado. What we are here, we don't exactly know why, but according to reports, Brian, it's keeping up with like Gemini 2.5, Gemini 3. Pretty much when you're going to come out with a new AI model, you really want to make a splash. They haven't released a brand new sort of AI model since 2024 when they had Llama 3. That is light years in the fast moving AI. So the fact that this now gets delayed further to May or June or later, according to some reports, really not good for a company down 3%.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I've even said Llama 3 or Llama anything with AI. Okay, we'll keep watching it. Meantime, a food fight? Why SNAP recipients are taking the USDA to court after this.